Hi, my name is Wayne, and this is Type Tested. I have just finished cleaning up this beautiful Royal number 10. Probably spent several hours cleaning and polishing the exterior alone, but you can see that it was well worth it. Has a nice high gloss finish with a deep reflection. I mean, you can clearly see the keys being reflected on the front here. It was really worth all the extra effort. But now, before I can give it a test, there's one other thing I have to do, and that is to put a ribbon on it. And it occurs to me that the differences between this and other typewriters makes it worth taking a moment to explain this. Now, I did a separate video outlining the ribbon feed and reverse mechanism, and it's worth going to see that, and I'll link to that in the description. One thing to note is that the Royal ribbon spools are not the same as the Smith Corona ribbon spools. So I had to take the ribbon off of these in order to clean them and get them looking at least decent so that they would fit the typewriter instead of just being completely dirty and ratty and rusted. So I took the ribbon and stored it on a temporary spool here. You'll notice that this spool looks the same on both sides, and that it has a different mechanism, a little post to go into one of those 4 outer holes in order to connect it to the spindle. Royal, on the other hand, has these little tabs here which go onto the spindle gear here so that it can drive the ribbon. Also, most importantly, is that the ribbon reverse switch, the mechanism that actually triggers it, is built into the spool itself, not the typewriter. That means these spools are unique to Remington, and moreover, they have a top and they have a bottom, and you need to pay attention to that when you're putting the spool on. Also, you remember the ribbon feed on this typewriter is this direction to this direction, and you can see that there are arrows in each side right there that show you the direction that the ribbon will feed, and you need to pay attention to that as you wind the ribbon. Now, because this is built into the spool itself, you need to make sure that you wind the ribbon on in such a way that that takes this into account. And it also has this little extra, kind of hard to see, but let's see if I can show it. There we go, I think that's gonna work, yeah. So you see it's got this little extra bit here. It's just a tab that sticks up and doesn't connect on the other side. That is in part to, well, I suppose most of its job is to make sure that the ribbon doesn't accidentally come off of the spades here, the spear points, so that it doesn't separate from the ribbon when it comes time to reverse, because there's a certain amount of tension that's going to be applied to the spool as that happens. So you need to make sure you wind under that. And that means that you're going to have to pay attention to this and make sure that you don't trap it up accidentally. So the best way to handle this really is to pick a spool, decide that it's going to be one side or the other. In this case, I'll use that one. Take this, put it on the other side here, if I can do that without it coming out on me. And because it doesn't have those little tabs, it's going to free spin regardless of which direction the ribbon select is. So then I can take this, I can take it through, remembering which direction it's going to spin. I can take it up here under that little tab, and I have to go behind this one here, so with the little reversing lever. Then I can hook it onto the spear. So there's already a hole here, so let me find it. So now that I've got that on, Now, one thing to note about here is that this, I guess, as I demonstrated in my earlier video, this has an eyelet in it. It's not needed. So what I've done is I've trimmed a little bit off of the end of the ribbon. I haven't, I could cut just in front of the eyelet here, but in interest of keeping the extra couple of inches of ribbon, I went ahead and cut behind it. But that needs to, you need to make sure that it's short enough that this won't get caught up in the ribbon lifter before the reverse drops. So it's worth cutting a little bit off. Now, I'm going to wind the ribbon up here onto this new spool. I'm going to put a little bit of tension on the other side. This will take a minute or two, but it usually goes well. And this little hole here that you see, that's great for having your finger on so that you can do this without losing your grip on the spool, and it's elevated enough that it usually keeps the ink off your fingers, although you've probably got enough on it from just threading the ribbon. So I'll go ahead and finish this up just a little bit more. I'll go about a little more than half of the way through. That's another thing I like about these royals, being able to free spin the ribbon like this so that it's very quick to transfer it from one side to the other. A lot of typewriters don't do that, and they make you just work against the mechanism, which makes it a little bit harder, and yada. Okay, so there's the eyelet on the other side. So now I can take this spool off, and I can put the proper spool on once I get it threaded here. And this one, it's going to feed this direction. So this, I don't have to do quite the same thing as I did on the other side. Now, there may or may not have been left and right spools. I don't know exactly. These two happen to be identical. So that means that one is going to be a little bit easier to put together than the other. So I'm going to, again, put it behind that little tab here. But now, because I don't have to wrap the other way around, I have the little spear right over here, and I've got it through my little hole. So now I can put this in here. Hit the free spool here, wind a little bit of it on. And then I can proceed to thread this through the typewriter itself. And that you do, as typical, by putting the shift lock down, jamming a couple keys up, and making sure that you're on the red color selector so that it lifts as high as possible. And for this one, it's just as simple as putting it back through here in front of the two bottom prongs, then pulling it down and putting it up in front of the forward prongs. Drop the ribbons down, pull the shift lock up, and there you go. Now all you need to do is just make sure you know which way the ribbon is going to feed, and it's currently going the right direction. Want it to feed from the full spool to the empty spool. So that said, let's say we give this a little bit of a test drive. Put a little bit of paper on here. It's already got some text on it from when I was evaluating earlier. All right. My margins are, of course, not set. And that's easily fixable. And let's see how she works. Yeah, assuming I can actually type. Go to the black. Of course, I managed to miss a character. Nobody ever claimed I was a perfect typist. So let's go ahead and check the ribbon lift. So slashes, underscores, Switch to red. Slashes, underscores, apostrophe. And the slash should extend top to bottom, so that's your best test as well. And you'll notice that the underscore is right at the bottom of the slash. So it may be possible to miss that you're missing the last of the slash, but the underscore will prove that. And as far as the upper bit goes, well, the slash goes higher than any of the other characters. So as long as you get things like the dollar, the ampersand, the quotes all printing top to bottom, then you're fine. And there's no bleed in here, so I'm not mixing black and red. So I have everything the way it's supposed to. And now, there we have it. One fully functional Royal 10 typewriter with a new ribbon, properly spooled, and ready for another 100 years of service. Thanks for joining me. Once again, my name is Wayne, and this is Type Tested.